Hey, Slater Crusaders. So I believe the biggest geopolitical topic that we need to focus on is us in China, specifically China's Belt and Road Initiative. Last week, we talked about China's Health Silk Road as just one aspect of their Belt and Road Initiative, and just in general, China's effort to, I don't want to say take over the world. That's a little dramatic of a sentence, but maybe not. Definitely to make the 21st century a China-centric world. That's fair. I want to talk to CLAUDIA ROSETT. She's from the Independent Women's Forum. She was a former member of the editorial board in the Wall Street Journal and editorial page editor of the Asian Wall Street Journal in Hong Kong, and has been focused a lot recently on the Hong Kong protests, which is something that we've forgotten about here in America because we're so short-sighted. CLAUDIA, how are you? Wonderful to talk to you again.
I'm fine, thank you. Great to see you.
So take over the world. Help me, my talk radio dramatic is oh, they want to take over the world. Help me temper that back a little bit to what you think is more accurate.
Well, I don't think that would actually be responsible of me. I think you're accurate. It sounds very dramatic. And the way that China puts this is they want to be sort of the dominant power, that they will be the center of things. But what they're talking about is taking over the world. Is basically transforming the rest of the planet into vassal states, which will do things only with the say-so of China. It's extremely ambitious, but it's not the first time in history that a ruthless dictator with a sort of horrible military machine at his command has set out to do something like this. And if you look at how Xi Jinping has been piecing together the pieces, that's where this heads. That is the ambition. So I don't think you should temper that. I mean, you should explain it, which is what we want to do here, but don't temper it. It's accurate.
Fair. Can you help us understand China and maybe the leaders of China, or at least propaganda, their belief that they are the center of the world, or like the chosen people, or is there any ideology behind this that's driving it?
Yeah, look, this is sort of the monstrous spawn of communism of the last century. That's where it began. And this is had China not gone that way, I think we'd be seeing a magnificent modern nation in what is China right now. Unfortunately, they followed the Soviet model. They completely embraced the Maoist version of communism. This beggared China during Mao's time. And then they began these reforms. And the great hope was that they would evolve, sort of like Taiwan went from a dictatorship to a democracy, a Chinese democracy. The hope that was China would take a similar path. The problem is it's basically a communist party with an extremely powerful structure, a Leninist structure, that's really hard to take apart. I mean, these things either collapse generally or they carry on. And in China's case, they harnessed it to a freer economy, but not to a freer polity, and carried on. And this has produced this really monstrous rise of a system that's where you have just over 90 million members of the Communist Party. They dominate a country of some 1.4 billion people, whom they regard as sort of they treat, I don't know how they regard them, but I know how they treat them, as cogs, as serfs, as slaves, basically, in the machine for enhancing their wealth and power. And there's sort of no borders to this. In the last century, communism was supposed to have no frontiers. They've sort of carried on with that same approach, in part because when you create a system like this, you need to keep feeding it. It makes people quite unhappy. So you need to constantly be expanding, acquiring more resources. That's the drive. That's what we're seeing in China. So it's not communist anymore. It's economically more efficient than that. But the aspirations and the ruthless, sort of soul-crushing nature of it, that's the same.
Slater Crusaders, thanks for watching the first on YouTube. If you want more, subscribe. We got plenty.